We think India is amazing. That's because we never really understood Egypt. Look at the two countries side by side. India has changed. Egypt is full of life. On geography, India is inferior. On population burden, India is 10 times larger. Yet what India has achieved today, Egypt can only look up to. The pyramids have stood at Egypt's gates for 4,500 years, but 99% of the Egyptians living beside them cannot read the words carved on the stones. Why? Because today's Egyptians are no longer the same people who built them. Of the four ancient civilizations, only China is still the original team, still at home. Welcome back to World Reorganization, Life and Death of 80 Nations. I am Yang Guo. Today is episode 67, the final part of the continuation of birth series. Egypt, the Arab handle of one of the four ancient civilizations. How did it end up like this? Act 1. The truth. Today's Egypt and the ancient Egyptians who built the pyramids are almost two different civilizations. China was conquered many times by the Mongols, by the Manchus, yet both waves were absorbed. The Mongols began reading Chinese classics. The Manchu emperor knelt before Confucius. In Egypt, the opposite happened. When the conquerors came, they replaced the core. In 641 AD, Arab general Amr ibn al-As led 4,000 cavalry into Egypt. In 3 years, it was finished. The Arabs installed a new operating system. Arabic language, Islam, new laws, Arab aesthetics. Convert and you paid less tax, could hold office, trade, and marry 4 wives. Egyptians slowly completed a voluntary blood exchange. Hieroglyphs became unreadable by the 4th century. For over 1,000 years, Egyptians lived beside the pyramids and could not read a single word. In 1799, the Rosetta Stone was found. In 1822, the French deciphered it. The French read the words of Egypt's ancestors for them. The stone still sits in the British Museum. The people living in this house today have almost nothing to do with the people who built it. They inherited the land. They did not inherit the civilization. This is the base color of the Egyptian question. Act 2. Easy to raise, hard to hold. Every early civilization struggled to eat steadily. Only the ancient Egyptians solved it almost while lying down. Every year the Nile flooded on schedule, bringing black silt that fertilized the land automatically. Farmers waited for the water to recede, sowed and harvested. This stability created surplus capacity, and that surplus built the pyramids. The Pyramid of Khufu used 2.3 million stones around 2560 BC, while China was still in the legendary 5 emperors era. Geography gave Egypt a golden cradle, deserts on both sides, cataracts to the south, the Mediterranean to the north. But more than 90% of the population and economy is squeezed onto less than 5% of the land, the narrow Nile Strip. The rest is useless desert. Egypt has no strategic depth. Once the banks of the Nile are cut, the country is finished. Any foreign power that arrives with soldiers can conquer it as easily as cutting tofu. Persians, Alexander, Romans, Arabs. Geography gave Egypt a cradle. It did not give it armor. That is the second curse. Act 3. A position too good. Egypt sits at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe, the throat between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. Any empire wanting to dominate Eurasia could not bypass it. Occupying Egypt was always the cheapest expansion. Food, trade choke points, and control of routes to the Indian Ocean. From 525 BC to the 1952 Nasser Revolution, 2,477 years, most of the time Egypt was not ruled by Egyptians. The Suez Canal, opened in 1869 and dug at Egyptian expense, was soon controlled by Britain and France. When Nasser nationalized it in 1956, Britain, France, and Israel attacked within a month. Only simultaneous opposition from the United States and the Soviet Union saved him. Whenever Egypt tries true autonomy, it invites all-round pressure. Replaced civilization, geographic fragility, and a location too valuable pushed Egypt into the passive. Act 4. The internal failure. Many countries have been beaten and still risen. Japan, Germany, Korea. Egypt has been fully independent for 73 years and has smashed every hand it dealt itself. Half the problem is external. The other half is internal and worse. First, strategic drift. Nasser pushed pan-Arabism and the Soviet camp, even merging with Syria, only to break up 3 years later. Egypt stayed trapped in wars with Israel. Sadat flipped 180 degrees, expelled the Soviets, turned to America, signed Camp David, and was branded an Arab traitor. Mubarak then spent 30 years lying flat under military control. No real reform. After the 2011 Arab Spring came a brief Muslim Brotherhood experiment, then another military coup. In 70 years, Egypt has spun through 5 major directions. A country that keeps spinning never moves forward. Second, overconfidence. In 1967, Nasser misjudged his strength, blocked the Strait of Tiran, and handed Israel a perfect pretext. In 6 days, the Air Force was destroyed on the ground, and Sinai was lost for 15 years. The defeat also closed Egypt's industrialization window. Third and deepest, the military as a business empire. The army runs mineral water, bread, gas stations, cement, hotels, real estate, shipbuilding. These companies pay no tax, no tariffs, keep opaque books, receive free land, and get priority procurement. Private firms cannot compete. Manufacturing stays stuck at around 15% of GDP. Employment, innovation, and upgrading never take off. A country twice the size of Vietnam exports only a fraction of Vietnam's manufactured goods. That is Egypt's own choice. Act 5. Today's dilemma. In 1950, Egypt had 20 million people. By 2025, it passed 108 million, nearly 6 times larger. More than 90% are crowded onto a Nile strip no bigger than Taiwan, denser than Shanghai's suburbs. Once the breadbasket of the Roman Empire, Egypt is now the world's largest wheat importer. Self-sufficiency is below 50%. The 2022 wheat price spike nearly overwhelmed the government. The Suez Canal earned a record $10.2 billion in 2023, still only a little over 2% of GDP. In 2024, Houthi attacks diverted ships around Africa. Revenue collapsed more than 60% in 1 year. A war Egypt did not start crippled its main foreign exchange source overnight. Upstream, Ethiopia completed the Grand Renaissance Dam in 2025. Egypt protested for 14 years and achieved nothing. The switch that controls the Nile is now in someone else's hand. Population rising, land shrinking, food imported, foreign exchange dependent on a fragile canal. Water decided upstream, the economy controlled by the military. This is Egypt today. China survived not because its geography was better or because it was never conquered. It survived because its civilizational core, characters, Confucian system, county administration was hard enough to absorb every conqueror. The Mongols became the Yuan, the Manchus became the Qing. Egypt was the opposite. Every outsider who entered became the new Egypt. In 73 years of independence, strategic drift, overconfidence, and military monopoly made Egypt miss every chance to turn around. Whether ancestral production lasts never depends on how rich the ancestors were or how strong the house they built. It depends on who lives in the house today, whether they recognize this home, and whether they know how to live in it. Next time we leave the birth continuation series and begin the new chapter. Too big to fail. First stop, the United Kingdom.